Silent Hill 2 is a game which is very confusing until at some point it all clicks. When this happens, the game is at its most terrifying. Many consider the 2001 original to be the best psychological horror game, and some even say it is the greatest game of all time. With this much love and nostalgia, many believe this game would be impossible to remake. In this video, we'll be achieving the Platinum Trophy and delving deep into the psychological themes. I wish to reiterate the content warning that we will be exploring adult themes, and I will be placing timestamps in the video for any topics that may be distressing for some viewers. Additionally, Silent Hill 2 purposefully leaves many loose ends untied. One of the beauties of this is to enable robust discussions on different interpretations of the story. I will be presenting my own conclusions and interpretations, and if at any point you would like to share your thoughts and ideas, please leave a comment down below, as I will try and reply to every single one. Without further ado, welcome to Silent Hill. In my restless dreams, I see that town, Silent Hill. You had promised you would take me there again someday, but you never did. Well, I'm alone there now, in our special place, waiting for you. The masterpiece commences as we steady our trembling hand before we look into the mirror and see reflections staring right into the camera. We play as the legendary James Sunderland, who has just arrived outside of the town Silent Hill. This trip to Silent Hill was sparked after receiving a letter from his wife Mary, asking him to meet her at their special place. The only strange thing about this letter is that Mary passed away 3 years ago from an unknown illness. The circumstances present James as a man clinging to hope of Mary and seek answers within Silent Hill.
Is she really alive?
When gaining control of James, I try and leave the nightmare before it unfolds, before I'm met with an old enemy, an invisible wall. As a consolation prize, we unlock No Turning Back Now for attempting to leave. Entering into a foggy graveyard, we meet a young woman named Angela. After startling her, we mention that we are now lost.
Lost?
This 2001 voice acting gem has been lost in the remake, but a part of me wonders if it was deliberate in the original, to already set the scene to the player that things are just a little bit strange in this place. Angela warns James that something isn't right about the town. James shrugs off this warning before Angela interrupts by saying she isn't lying. In response, we receive an insight into James's psyche. He doesn't care what he awaits, as he is determined to walk this path. Angela walks a path that is parallel to James. She is looking for a mama. An anxious-filled undertone is observed when the topic of a mother is raised. She starts playing with her nails and starts scanning the area to ensure no one else is around. Angela thought her father and brother were here as well, but can't find them either. We end the interaction on a somber note by wishing hope that Angela finds them, which she reciprocates while she returns to gloom over the graves. When continuing down the path, we are able to collect a map and unlock Enjoy Your Stay for officially entering Silent Hill. When delving deeper into the town, we spot the first inhabitant. Following the figure inside, we are able to find the radio. When inspecting the radio, we are attacked by a creature with no arms, wrapped in what appears to be a straitjacket body bag while wearing heels. This creature is known as a lying figure. James's reaction is to simply tear out a wooden board with nails protruding. This enables us to quickly take down the creature. After the first kill, here is James's diagnosis.
Whatever it is, it's not human.
Moving on to the key puzzle of the area, we unsheath a jukebox. This jukebox enables a flashback cutscene to occur where fragments of memories start to rush in. This enables James to reminisce about the time he shared with Mary at Rosewater Park. Completing the puzzle grants us a key which enables us to progress to the Woodside Apartments, unlocking Nice and Cozy. The main puzzle of this area requires 3 coins for us to progress. In order to explore the apartments, we find a very handy torch to illuminate the horrors awaiting us. Sadly for James, the next monster is in the very same room, the mannequin. The mannequins are created from 2 pairs of mannequin legs. The creator, Masahiro Ito, was inspired by Ashinaga and Tenaga yokai monsters, which is Japanese folklore for these horrific creatures. On further inspection, this mannequin is actually wearing what appears to be Mary's dress. On our quest to find all of the required coins, we reach out to grab a set of keys before a girl rudely stomps on our hand and kicks it away. To make our way to the keys, we come face to face with the legendary Pyramid Head. We then collect our first gun from a shopping trolley upon entering one of the apartments. When exiting, we find Pyramid Head is now gone, an ominous introduction to the lead antagonist. Utilizing the new pistol, we are able to spoil a welcome home party, as after we shoot all the balloons, we unlock Let's Not Party. Our next stop into an apartment is that we find a disturbing sight of some rotten leftovers in the fridge, and we find Eddie Dobrumsky vomiting in the toilet. Eddie immediately denies killing the person in the fridge, and James acts as a real detective in this scene, trying to see what has happened in a calm and trusting tone. As a note for you, dear viewer, whenever Eddie is on screen, I'd love for you to pay attention to the coldness protruding from his breath. The two then discuss their reasoning for being in Silent Hill. James feels as though something brought him to Silent Hill, when in comparison, Eddie ran away from something unknown. James starts to conclude the conversation by saying Eddie should probably leave because there's something wrong with it. In response, Eddie asks James to go with him. James's psyche knows that his purpose in Silent Hill is not complete yet and denies the request, almost like he knows he is able to survive in this place. Completing the puzzle for the Woodside Apartments grants us a key. Utilizing this key, we find what appears to be Mary's cloth, which triggers a cutscene. What we witness is Pyramid Head affirming his dominance over two mannequins in what can be perceived as a sexual tone. James seeks safety in a cupboard, which is of little use as Pyramid Head slowly approaches. In retaliation, James fires directly at the monster, which Pyramid Head ignores in its entirety. They stare each other down face to face in a way that beckons for a challenge. Seemingly, James is not ready for the task, which sees Pyramid Head leave the apartment. This scene has been recontextualized in a very good way, as in the original, after James fires the gun, Pyramid Head leaves after doing a quirky dance. In the remake, Pyramid Head comes off as much more foreboding and mysterious. Leaving through a red door at the back of the apartment, it opens through to the barrier of the Otherworld. The Otherworld is the true mirror of manifestations that the town Silent Hill is reflecting onto the real world. This means that the Otherworld is different for each person in Silent Hill, as the birthplace of the manifestations is from the person's mind. Once we enter, we unlock Otherworldly for entering the Otherworld for the first time. Exploring the same apartment complex, now with a hellish layer of texture applied, we find Angela again. What unfolds is a heavy scene where we see Angela playing with a knife as she is contemplating taking her own life. James attempts to calmly de-escalate the situation. This was unsuccessful as Angela believes they both deserve to die. James keeps his distance from her, and there's a terrific scene where James shows the photo of Mary to Angela. Angela very clearly doesn't want to make eye contact with the photograph. This makes you wonder if Angela is scared to connect with James or if she is scared of what she will see. When James spills the beans that his wife has been dead for the past 3 years, Angela wants to leave the conversation and search for her mother. Prior to leaving, James asks about the elephant in the room, which is the knife. Angela doesn't trust herself with it and asks James to hold it for her. There's a telling sign that Angela has experienced trauma as her body relents, relinquishing the power that the knife provides as she points it directly to James. When she comes back down to her situation, she looks to leave the situation immediately by leaving the knife for James to hold. Completing the puzzle for the area opens up the boss room where we are put up against Pyramid Head. This fight is easily one-sided. Pyramid Head doesn't even flinch when receiving heavy blows from our wooden board. After we deal enough damage, a siren blares, which triggers my Dead by Daylight memories. Thankfully, in this game, the siren acts as our defense as Pyramid Head departs, and we unlocked Past for escaping the Blue Creek Apartments. Travelling to what James believes is the special place that Mary was referencing, we believe we have found her. James calls out Mary, and he corrects himself as it's not exactly his Mary. This is Maria. and James wouldn't be crazy to assume this is Mary's long-lost twin sister. Maria knows this as well, as she attempts to put James at ease.
I don't look like a ghost, do I? See? Warm.
Sorry, I got confused.
James attempts to leave by saying he is looking for his late wife. Maria latches onto the fact that James is looking for a letter, which hooks James back into the conversation with her. She then suggests that she knows a special place not too far from here, and proposes that she shows him. Maria attempts to touch James yet again, which at this stage we're not too sure if it is flirting or if it is her own way of connecting with people. Thankfully for us, James shrugs this foolish attempt off.
Don't flirt with him.
I'm not going to.
James asks Maria to tell him where the spot is, which Maria puts out a sympathy card that she couldn't possibly left here alone. James corrects himself as he wouldn't leave a damsel in distress. With our new companion, I unlock Uncanny for meeting Maria for the first time. Our first point of call is to the bar, and Maria takes another opportunity to try and smooth our green bomber jacket protagonist. A subtle bit of character development comes in the form of Maria offering James a drink. James declines this gesture, but clenches his fist with the camera focusing on the glass. This is further compounded by a long stare at the glass. Though no words are being spoken, the game hints at a possible history of drinking abuse. The death of a spouse has been described as one of life's most severe stresses. The term stressor, as defined by the American Psychological Organization, is any event, force, or condition that results in physical or emotional stress. Stresses may be internal or external forces that require adjustment or coping strategies on the part of the affected individual. Unfortunately, alcohol abuse is 5 times more prevalent in men than in women. This provides a correlation with men relying on alcohol to deal with the stresses. Thankfully for now at least, James is sober as we continue with Maria into Rosewater Park, which was theorized to be the special place Mary could have been referring to. With no Mary in sight, the pair hear a faint scream from a girl. The scream leads to a movie theatre, which James ventures in alone. Inside a cinema, we get a nice surprise and find Eddie again, who is nestled into watching Shutterstock footage. In contrast from our first encounter, Eddie has a tub of ice cream and is straight up raw eating it with his bare hand. James makes a seemingly innocent remark that he has regained his appetite, which causes Eddie to stop eating and straight up wipe the cold ice cream all over his shirt, reflecting his own lack of self-respect, but also the self-awareness that comes with eating while being watched. Unfortunately, this is a turning point for their relationship, as Eddie is cold and malicious towards James. But we do find out that the girl's name is Laura, thanks to Eddie. Following Laura, we are led into Brookhaven Hospital, which unlocks Admitted for entering the hospital. Our travel companion and Maria is struck with a wave of sickness, which enables James to leave her behind and lead the search on our own. After working our way through the hospital and meeting the iconic nurses for the first time, we are greeted by Pyramid Head on the rooftop. As opposed to striking James, we are thrown through the rooftop. This may seem like an intent to emit harm onto James, but it seemingly pushed us forward as we are now able to reunite with Laura. James asks Laura how she knows Mary, to which she responds by saying that they are friends from their time in the hospital. The only problem is Laura became friends with Mary only 1 year ago. James becomes angered due to the facts not lining up. This is not lost on Laura, as she has a very distinct scared response, but she is also cunning as she lures James into a room in the disguise of retrieving a letter from Mary. When entering, the door is promptly slammed and that dreaded feeling of we're not alone starts to sink in. Laura seems oblivious to any dangers that the other world presents as we encounter our first defeatable boss, Fleshflip. The fight plays out like a game of chicken as you bait Fleshflip into attacking, and with a successful dodge you have a moment of opportunity to whack as much damage as possible. Once enough damage is inflicted, Fleshflip breaks off from the roof and gains the movement of an arachnoid, with its steel appendages coming from its bed cage. The danger comes from the lips, which is placed in the lower end of the flesh mound. After more damage is inflicted, the boss fight comes to an end. Silent Hill then does the old bait and switch as we are picked up and unlock nightmare fuel as we are transported through to the other world of the hospital. We find the new puzzle for the area, which has these awesome large and grandiose chains which are removed via 2 combo locks. The chains and the whole area remind me of the absolutely awesome Hellraiser.
The box. You opened it. We came.
Opening the box reveals nothing inside, but it does reveal an ominous statue containing an elevator button for us to use. Going to floor -1, we have an extremely awkward encounter with Maria as James inadvertently believed her to be Mary, which didn't leave her too happy.
Anyway? What do you mean, anyway? I was almost killed back there. I have never been so scared in my whole life.
Maria, in the midst of her frustrations, embraces James and suggests that it is his role to look after her. Reunited with our travel companion, we start to navigate this dark and obscure place. In the first act of empathy, James helps Maria to tend to her fears as we go for a stroll.
Run!
After surviving one of the worst chase sections I've experienced, Maria comes off worse for wear as James witnesses her death right in front of his eyes. The trophy is fitting for the state of the game, as the loan again describes exactly what both the player and James is feeling. Returning to the surface, apart from the rain setting the mood, we spot Laura running outside, which prompts us to follow. We run into Angela again, who is starting to believe her mother doesn't want to see her. James glosses over this point and instead says another seemingly innocent comment saying happy to see you. This seemingly put Angela in a state of shock, so much so that she second guesses it.
Happy to see me?
Alive, I mean.
Through the awesome motion cap, you can see the shift in emotion going from a state of shock, and I would go so far to even say hope, and it all comes crushing down as she realizes James was just happy to see her alive. Attachment theory is one of the most basic and foundational theories in psychology. Developed by John Bowlby, it attempts to explain humans are born with an innate need to form close bonds with at least one primary caregiver for survival and emotional well-being. Even as we age, when the basic needs for both physical and emotional well-being are not met, depression is likely to increase from an attachment theorist perspective. I believe negative attachments are on display with Angela, as when it clicks that a positive attachment response isn't going to be received from James, she is quite upset and distressed. James tries to comfort Angela by the form of touch, which triggers quite a bad trauma response, which ends with Angela running away into the night. Continuing to push forward, we make a run to the outskirts of town, which is where we find the Silent Hill Historical Society. Silent Hill 2 is the most self-contained story in the Silent Hill franchise, where the overarching story of the cultist and town take a backseat for the psychological horror. It is at this point of the game where we start to see that the town has a bit more layers to it, and most ominously, we find a large and foreboding painting of Pyramid Head as he reminds James he is.
I'm watching you, Wazowski. Always watching.
The importance of the museum is that it holds the entrance to Toluca Prison through an endless, dark, and freaky staircase. Once we reach the bottom, into the abyss unlocks. I love this section, as it contains an ominous pitfall, which feels very reminiscent of Sigmund Freud's iceberg theory. This metaphor is a visual interpretation of the human mind, where Freud theorized that the subconscious is fully submerged and a person is unable to explore this part of the mind. Applying this metaphor to James jumping into the void, we can predict the impending horrors awaiting us delving deeper into Silent Hill. Our first introduction to the prison is a grimy, wet and desolate area in a room where you receive a key and then are sadly locked in. Turning on high contrast mode enables a wonderful kill farming opportunity as infinite cockroaches spawn. This enabled me to unlock Merciless for finishing off 50 enemies with a stomp attack. No big deal for killing 75 enemies with ranged weapons, and Blunt Force Trauma for killing 75 enemies with melee weapons. To progress forward, another void awaits us as we descend further into James's mind. The result of our leap is surfacing in a frozen over cafeteria where we find a frozen body and Eddie, who is cold and losing grip on reality as he holds a handgun to his head. When James asks what the hell happened, he almost has to give Eddie the right story of he was attacked and shot through self-defense. When questioning the motivation, Eddie had no good response, just saying he came out of nowhere with a look in his eye while making fun of Eddie. When James point out that it isn't really justification to kill someone, Eddie straight up holds James up. There's a powerful moment of silence that fills the air between the pair. The silence is broken by Eddie starting to laugh and saying it was all just a joke, and the body was here before he got there. Leaving the cafeteria, the prison awaits us. In this section of the game I find most terrifying. Toluca Prison is constrained to tight corridors, no lighting apart from a light switch which will only remain on for a limited time, and if you are caught in the darkness, the somewhat simple and janky melee combat is your only hope for survival. The puzzle for this area requires us to collect different weights scattered across the prison. You can then arrange the weights to unlock the next area of the prison in order to find and collect more missing weights. A glimmer of hope comes from unlocking the final weapon in the game, a glorious hunting rifle. Utilizing its capabilities for the first time unlocks James of all trades, as we officially have used every weapon. The Gallo puzzle makes a return, and we make a series of jumps into the further voids, going deeper and deeper into the iceberg. The end result is arriving into the Labyrinth, as we reunite with Angela again, although she is terrified and completely disconnected from reality. The fear is warranted as our next boss, Abstract Daddy, makes his sudden and horrifying entrance. Angela calls this creature Daddy, and it depicts a large figure merged on top of a smaller figure in what can be perceived as a bed frame, one of the most disturbing bosses and moments in this game. It is at this point that I must admit that every interpretation of Silent Hill is different. Our experience in Silent Hill can be categorized as obscure due to the heavy fog and even in the enemies, as everything seems unidentifiable and uncertain. Eddie's Silent Hill is frozen. Laura's world is normal, as her innocence means she isn't subject to the horrors inflicted onto the town. Finally, Angela's world remains a mystery to us. But the reason why I introduced this concept is because this boss fight is James's interpretation of Abstract Daddy. Angela is perceiving it completely different, but from James's point of view, the boss is an abstract physical manifestation of Angela's sexual trauma packaged with the memories of Mary being sick. This interpretation theory is confirmed by the game's creator, Masahiro Ito, who on Twitter said, "We've never seen Abstract Daddy from her point of view, similar to how many of the game's characters haven't seen Pyramid Head." Terrifyingly, you are forced to experience a glance of what Angela might have been feeling as you run through a decrepit household, which results in Abstract Daddy's path of destruction of feeling nowhere is safe. The boss fight itself is quite underwhelming and doesn't do the design justice, but when the creature falls, Angela starts to release all of her built-up anger against it. When attempting to calm the anger, the fearful avoidant attachment style rears its head back into the picture, as Angela mistakes a helpful action for an attempt to making sexual advances towards her. After the emotions build up, Angela crumbles under the weight of her trauma. James tries to correct Angela by outright stating his intentions of finding Mary. This brings a bit of clarity back to Angela, who departs on her own volition to continue the search for her mother. A reward unlocks our 16th trophy, Unforgivable. Being in the Labyrinth brings a surprise, which is being reunited with Maria, although this time she has no recollection of her demise. This encounter is important as Maria outright states her purpose.
Doesn't matter who I am. I am here for you, James.
James has a decision to make, which is to either return to see Maria or continue pushing further into the Labyrinth. The Silent Hill 2 remake has 8 different branching endings and is based on the actions you do throughout your playthrough. Awesome guide creator Angel Bless created a visual mapping of the different endings. I'm avoiding the Maria ending on my first playthrough, as such I wanted to avoid the Labyrinth interaction. Introducing the awesome Labyrinth cube, James can determine the different areas he needs to travel through. The most terrifying moment comes when Pyramid Head suddenly steps out, but pushing through the fear sees us unlocking Inner Sanctum for entering Pyramid Head's room. After escaping this encounter, our respite doesn't last for long, as to survive the third Labyrinth route, we have an awful chase sequence as this huge wall of legs retreat when faced in the presence of Pyramid Head. With another escape under our belt, James couldn't remain happy as we entered the prison cell Maria was in, although this time she has died again, but instead of having the wound from Pyramid Head, she is covered in wounds marking a reflection of Maria's illness. As the Labyrinth section is concluding, the cube is replaced with what appears to be Pyramid Head's sword. James is able to wield this sword through another wall of legs. Adding a bit of trivia, Pyramid Head's weapon is a great knife which was originally intended to be one half of a pair of broken scissors. The original attempt behind this segment was for James to wield the other half of the scissors, further symbolising Pyramid Head's connection with both James and the player. To escape the labyrinth, James jumps into his own grave, and we awaken to our final encounter with Eddie. This is where the cookie crumbles with Eddie. Prior to entering Silent Hill, he faced persistent bullying by his peers growing up due to his weight. A football player continued to target Eddie after they graduated high school. Eddie broke mentally and killed the bully's dog. He then utilised his father's revolver to shoot the bully's knee. On the run, either from the police or because he was scared, Silent Hill called out to Eddie. When in Silent Hill, the town summoned the bully to persist the mocking and bullying which caused Eddie to repeatedly kill the manifestations. Noting James doesn't know what the bully looks like, his subconscious projects his own personal feelings of self-harm, which is the reason why some of the bodies look eerily similar to James. With the consistent bullying, Eddie felt isolated and cold. This is the reason why Silent Hill takes on a distinct frozen theme for Eddie. Believing James to be another bully, our first human boss fight ensues in a frozen meat locker. When Eddie falls, James stares at his hands with all the colour drained in his face. It's a very similar scene to the game's opening, but the weight of the moment is not lost on James, as human being unlocks. Finally smelling fresh air, James has to row to Lakeview Hotel by following the direction of the light. Or for our next trophy, it required me to put the controller down for 10 minutes, unlocking Scourge of Toluca Lake. Finally being able to row, a glimmer of hope unlocks when arriving ashore. Reuniting with Laura, the pair make amends from their previous encounter, as James is handed a letter written by Mary for Laura. This letter is important as Mary instructed a nurse to provide Laura this letter posthumously, the contents of which provide an insight to the relationship between James and Mary, as Mary alludes to James mistreating her, but he is a kind person at heart. The letter concludes with Mary wishing Laura a happy 8th birthday. The significance of this is Laura only turned 8 last week, which provided the first tangible evidence to prove Mary didn't die 3 years ago. This gives James some actual hope that we might be able to find her, which is further compounded with a new letter that was intended for James. However, when James opens the envelope, the contents are empty. Laura takes the blame for the missing letter and runs away to try and find it. Being on our own again enabled time for me to check out the central ornament puzzle, which led me to the employee only section. To provide a bit of gameplay spice, James needs to dispose of all of his gear into a locker or else he will not pass the weight limit. This provided a tense opportunity late in the game which was grounded in a slight bit of realism. This adventure was needed to grab a videotape, which was accompanied with the Room 312 key. This is significant as this was the room James and Mary stayed in 3 years ago prior to the game's current events. When utilising the key, I also unlocked Truly Special for making it to Room 312. The contents of the videotape hold the reason as to why James was called to Silent Hill. The footage plays a deep repressed memory, the memory of Mary 3 years ago, prior to her sickness. However, in James's mind, this is when Mary died. As the past 3 years, Mary became bedridden from her terminal illness, which had a destructive effect on their relationship. As the game depicts Mary lashing out at James with frustration and anger, but in a chilling memory, we hear Mary call back for James.
James,
I didn't mean what I said.
This also recontextualizes James's relationship with alcohol, as he wasn't drinking out of grief, but he was drinking to avoid the shame of not being able to care for his wife and stopping his regular visits. Sadly, James started to resent Mary, and seeing the person that he loves in such pain drove him to do both a merciful and simultaneous selfish act. On James's last visit to the hospital, he took a pillow, gave his wife a kiss on the forehead, and smothered her to death. When this revelation comes to a close, there are no words spoken, only a look of true despair. James's deepest feelings are represented in all manifestations, flesh lips representing Mary's sick bed with the mouth representing the verbal abuse. The creature I find most horrifying is the nurses, who often shake their head as a subconscious flashback to the suffocation of Mary. Laura finds James and attempts to break the look of solitude. James has the courage to confess his actions, which causes Laura to run away. Some time has passed as the Lakeview Hotel becomes decrepit. James's radio breaks the feeling of despair as what appears to be Mary's voice calls out on the radio for James's help. Now originally I thought this world naturally would be the other world, but through another confirmation, this is actually the real world. Meaning this other world is only James's memory of when he stayed with Mary. Traversing through the real Lakeview Hotel, we encounter an intense glowing. Recalling all of the different Silent Hills, Angela's theme is revealed to be on fire. Our final encounter with Angela reveals the purpose for being in Silent Hill. After suffering imaginable trauma on behalf of her father and brother, she seeks out her mother, who was complicit in the lack of intervention. Angela managed to kill both her father and brother and looks to kill her mother so she can finally rest. There's a unique scene where for one final time she sarcastically seeks a connection from James.
Will you love me? Care for me? Heal all my pain? That's what I thought.
I found this interesting as her underlying sarcastic tone is distinct from any other encounter we've had. It's a telling sign she has already accepted her fate. Thus, her next request is for James to return the knife. This is promptly declined by James, which Angela questions if he is saving it for himself. This goes unanswered, which recontextualizes the original scene.
Saving it for yourself?
Me? No, I'd never kill myself.
This response almost shows James holding himself to a high regard to Angela and would never do such a thing. But with it being unanswered in the remake, that sense is removed, which almost equals out that sense of belief. Angela starts to leave the conversation, which is when James finally points out the flames.
It's hot as hell in here.
You see it too? For me, it's always like this.
That comment right at the end gives further validity to the different Silent Hills and most importantly, Angela's, which is on fire. James's Silent Hill trials are yet to be finished as we find Maria held captive by two looming pyramid heads. The executioners, execute Maria, which further symbolizes James's fate in being unable to save his wife Maria. James collapses mentally and both physically, which has an awesome breakdown scene. Pyramid Head's creation was conceived to push James forward, born from the guilt he felt from killing his wife. Realizing this, he says the following.
I know what you are. I know why I needed you. But it's all over now. I don't need you anymore.
Filled with redemption, the final challenge consists of facing both Pyramid Heads. When they are satisfied that their jobs are done, they fall on their spears, enabling James to push forward, which unlocks the trophy Obsolete. There's one character that remains who is yet to be explained, and that is Maria. The final area in Silent Hill 2 is the long-awaited reunion between James and Mary. Although James sees through the disguise and realizes it is Maria, putting up one final attempt to latch onto James. Included in an extended version of the original Silent Hill 2, a bonus episode was included which enabled you to experience the origins of Maria. It gives the character a foundation of being able to feel, which provides a really unique character development. The episode ends with how Maria was driven to James, knowing that he is searching for the
He's looking for the you that isn't you.
Despite the independence the episode displayed, unfortunately she is just another manifestation of James's mind, a version of Mary that is younger, blonde, and dresses less conservatively. She is partially James's inner idealistic version of Mary, or James's built-up sexual frustrations. Maria shares fragments of Mary's memories and feelings which can be seen in her authentic worry for Laura. There's a part in the episode where Maria stumbles across a teddy bear and she thinks Laura would love it, but Maria has to second guess her thoughts by asking, who is Laura? Maria's purpose is bound to James and will look to win his affection through flirting, manipulation, and in her final moments, cruelty. When Maria fails in subverting James from his original goal of looking for Mary, she is punished for being killed, not once, not twice, but 3 times. This isn't Maria's intentions either, as we learn from the episode.
But I'm scared to die. I'm so afraid of pain.
In our final encounter, when James calls out Maria, the subtitle's name changed from Mary to all of a sudden Maria when the disguise is broken. Maria desperately tries to win James, as without him her innate fear for death is on full display.
What?
I won't let you do this to me. I won't let you go. I can't!
It is unclear if Maria's transformation into a monster is voluntary or not. I personally like to think it is involuntary, which adds to her tragedy. The first stage of the fight plays out quite tricky, as the visual design of the barbed metal frame reflects the pain Mary experienced in the hospital. The second stage of the fight plays out similar to Flesh Lips, as James has to face Maria face to face. The third stage is the most terrifying yet, as Maria will attempt to strangle James to death in a cruel reflection of his own actions. When the final shot lands, Maria falls, and it is up to James to land one final shot prior to our first ending. That part of me unlocks for defeating Maria. The Leave ending is by far the most happy and could be described as the good ending. James has a conversation with Mary as he accepts what he did to his wife. Mary expresses that she requested the pain to go away, but this is ambiguous, as at the end of the day, James is speaking to his subconscious, and we won't know if this is really the truth or if it is James's way of being able to move on. Mary gives James her letter, which enables him to reunite with Laura while the letter is read out.
In my restless dreams, I see that town. Silent Hill.
James is then able to leave Silent Hill with Laura, now being able to act as her guardian. The conclusion of this awesome game unlocks faster than the fog for beating the game in under 10 hours, and making peace for unlocking the Leave ending. A very helpful thing about Silent Hill 2 is that it will provide you a new ending if the points balance out by the time Maria boss fight concludes. Reloading my last save, when Maria's put down the bleakest ending in water unlocks. This is likely the most canon ending due to the death of Mary lining up to be very, very recent. So much so that you can shockingly find Mary at the back of James's car at the beginning of the game. Returning to the ending, James harrowingly looks back at Mary's body as he proceeds to drive off of a cliff. The trophy Only Way Out unlocks for achieving the in-water ending. After recovering from the depression, I fired up New Game Plus to tackle the following objectives. First up is all collectibles, including strange photos, memos, and echoes in the past. Second is the miscellaneous trophies, one of which can only be in New Game Plus. Third are all of the special endings, as there are 5 endings which can be achieved in New Game Plus. Fourth is completing the game without using any ranged weapons, and fifth is also deactivating the radio for the entire playthrough. Finally, there's a trophy for completing the game in New Game Plus. The first miscellaneous trophy comes up right away, as James is able to turn Silent Hill into a massacre, unlocking Lumberjack. Included in the original, the chainsaw and special animation is a reference to the horror classic, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Although the animation is slightly annoying in the New Game Plus remake, as James will suddenly take control away from the player. I utilised the chainsaw's capability to break windows, unlocking Shattered, while also picking up a blue gem required for one of the special endings. Saying hi to Pyramid Head again, I tried opening a locked door, which was my 50th time trying, which unlocked You Never Know. Making it to a bowling alley with Maria, James is able to investigate some eaten pizza, which unlocks Leftovers.
This town's full of monsters. Who could just sit here and eat pizza?
As opposed to eating ice cream with bare hands, the original second encounter with Eddie saw him munching on some pizza, which saw both Laura and James mock him.
This town is full of monsters. How can you sit there and eat pizza?
Travelling to Jack's Inn, a reference is made to Silent Hill 3, which unlocks the trophy All Seems in Order, as room 106 was the same room Heather Mason stayed in. Another Silent Hill 3 reference comes in the form of the meme, as It's Bread unlocks when inspecting, well, bread. Heather made this same analysis by saying It's Bread, which has lived on as a meme in the Silent Hill community. While navigating to where James needs to play the videotape, you can actually craft a dog key which unlocks our first special ending. In a sick twist of fate, a dog was revealed to be the mastermind behind all of James's trauma.
Nie. To nie może być prawda.
The Doge gives James a lick, and we unlock I Saw That Town for completing the game in New Game Plus. The Goodest of Boy unlocks for reaching the dog ending, and As Close As You Like It unlocks for completing the game with no ranged weapons, and Radio Silent unlocks for completing the game with no radio. Utilising the blue gem at various different spots enables the blue gem to be utilised instead of the videotape. This seems James talked to our space friends, which sparks an Inception level discussion between 2024 Silent Hill 2 James and 2001 Silent Hill 2 James. As opposed to coming to the realisation about Mary, 2001 James reveals 2024 James is just a clone. This wild ending unlocks Tinfoil Hat for achieving the UFO Ending. The next ending is the one I find most hilarious. By drinking the White Claudia, James is able to enter a trance-like state. When watching the videotape, those nasty segments of suffocation are replaced with a hug and surprising smiles. And that is Bloober Team's new and original ending called Bliss. There's no trophy for it being unlocked, but it's still a fun experience. Watching the tape again, but this time being transported back to the real Lakeview Hotel, I am able to experience the final echoes of the past, which unlocks Echoes. And just a couple of minutes later, I collect the final memo, which unlocks the trophy Archivist. Okay, the trophy seems to be taking a little while to pop. Maybe let's try a reset and try and pick it up again. Let me try and scan through my inventory. Oh my god. I missed the memo. Soul Street Notes. There's 3 of them back to back to back, and I missed the goddamn third one outside the camper van. With the tears still in my eyes, I realised I had to play the game again for the 3rd time. While I'm here, I have to make sure I finish off the second playthrough by collecting the last strange photo, unlocking Pieces Unarranged. Taking down Maria again, this unlocks the Rebirth Ending, which visually is the weakest, but concept-wise is pure genius. After collecting some cultist books, James rejects Mary being dead and looks to perform a resurrection ritual on Toluca Lake. The results of the ritual are left ambiguous, but the trophy Defy Even Death might provide the answer. In my second playthrough, I had to ensure I took every opportunity to provide care, comfort, and connection to Maria.
Every night, at dinner, I'll be there. Every birthday party, I'll be there. Every Christmas, I'll be there.
These efforts culminate in a reunion with Mary, although this time it isn't Maria disguised as Mary. It is a manifestation of Mary that is heartbroken by the fact she was killed by her husband and understands the hatred and dark emotions James felt while she was sick. To really push the knife in deeper, this Mary understands James had already replaced her with Maria, which makes the Mary boss fight even more sad. Completing the boss fight for the 7th time now unlocks the Maria ending, which at first I hated, but when speaking with friends and really taking the time to analyse what the overarching meaning was, I found it utterly disturbing. After reuniting with Maria, she hands in Mary's letter, but this is dismissed by James as they look to depart Silent Hill. As they approach James's car, Maria's cough returns. James so coldly says in response,
"Better do something about that cough."
And that is the ending Maria, which unlocks Vicious Cycle and Party Like It's 2001, and it is the final ending from the original 2001 masterpiece. The horror of this ending comes from the fact James repeatedly ignored the signs that Maria reflected Mary. The first sign is the appearance and speech of Maria when compared to Mary. Secondly is when Maria starts getting sick. And finally, the ignorance to ignore the repeated deaths. Cold response to Maria's coughing at the end signifies James has not learned from his experiences in Silent Hill 2 and is doomed to repeat the cycle. The final ending, which is actually my favourite, is a new one from Bloober Team and is unlocked by acquiring the Toluca postcard via a safe in the real version of the hotel. Taking down Maria for one final time, James returns to his car and is ready to accept what comes next. This ending is horrifyingly bittersweet, as it plays out like the in-water ending, but with a key difference partway through. A theory in the community is that James was performing a Muri Shinju, which is considered a murder-suicide. James pours his heart out, which was beautifully answered by Mary, as her hand reaches out to comfort James as he begins to break out in tears. We can see Mary sitting in the back seat, which is both morbid and bittersweet, as Mary's body is on the very same seat, but I found it moving that James was able to find peace. The ending is very ambiguous, as opposed to the in-water ending. It is left up to your interpretation on if James left the car or stayed in it until the very end. It provides almost a burial for Mary if he did in fact leave the car, or it could be the theorized murder-suicide. Not going to lie, I actually bawled my eyes out when I first saw this ending. Returning to Silent Hill for the 3rd and hopefully final time, I look to see some of the more nuanced secrets. One of which that I'd like to point out is Mary's letter. This letter has been in our inventory the entire game, but once we reach Lakeview Hotel, the contents of the letter completely disappear, potentially demonstrating that this was just another manifestation of the town. Also, I couldn't forget the missed memo, which was found just 17 minutes into a new playthrough. When finally picking up the last memo, Archivist unlocks and the Platinum Trophy, You Make Me Happy. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the wonderful masterpiece of Silent Hill 2. I really hope you enjoyed the psychological analysis plus the explanations of some of the more nuanced symbolism that the game provides. If you did enjoy the psychological analysis, please let me know down in the comments below, as I'm sure I would be more than happy to provide more psychological analysis in the future. Thank you so much for watching all the way through. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you all on the next one. This is Serenity. See ya.